Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Today we're going to continue talking with Doug Metzger. He's going to be speaking at the Prophecy Club on Will You Survive America's Fall? He's going to be speaking February the 9th from 7 to 10:30 at the Prophecy Club, and then next morning at the Spirit of Prophecy Church, same building, Sunday morning, February 10th from 10:30 to noon, and that's at 2540 K Avenue in Plano on the corner of Park and K, right behind the Whataburger. So let me tell you a little bit about Doug. At the age of 19, he received a very radical salvation, putting it mildly, and God began to show him visions, and many of those visions were of coming events in America's demise. And he was shown unspeakable torment is coming to America, and the reason is to turn us back to God. Now, what I want to do today is let him tell you more examples of just to show you that he's really hearing from God. And then about halfway through today's program, we're going to get into some of the visions for the future. So, Doug, welcome back to the Prophecy Club.
Yes, thank you.
All right, you were just telling us a story before we got into the radio program. Continue that story.
One of the things I did for our ministry, I started with Billy Graham Organization and was with them for a couple of years. Tremendous bunch of folks. And what I witnessed was the power of prayer there and miraculous things, unbelievable. But between that and starting a ministry, I also got involved in law enforcement. And I did training films on cult and occult-related crimes. As I would show these to the different departments, whether it be Metropol or a police department or whatever the agency was, sometimes we showed it at academies. What it struck people with is the quantity of evil to which they could not have imagined. And these are hardened detectives primarily, or people who would study law enforcement and criminology. And they were struck with what I had accumulated, and most of it came from arrests, things that were gained at arrests or actual crime scenes. But they were finally struck with, and this is funny, it's funny to me in the sense that the people that are closest to being around evil every day were struck with how much they didn't understand evil. When they saw the films that we presented, and it was for profiling and for forensic study of a crime scene, they were finally met with, oh my gosh, I never believed that there was this much evil, and if there's this much evil in the world, there must be a God, and I don't know God. And though it wasn't the intent, mine was for education purposes, though it wasn't for the intent of evangelism, oftentimes it'd be a line of hardened police that were convicted that they didn't know who God was. Out of that came the ministry that I had started. There were so many victims that have come out of cult and occult-related crimes that I had a dozen counselors on staff that took the overflow of what I had, and I was usually booked 6 to 8 weeks in advance. There was that many people affected through incredible amount of damage. And the clients that I mostly saw, 95% of them were women that came out of some type of rape, molestation, incest, that type of thing. And we had better than 90% success rate through that process. But I was always amazed how much was actually out there that wasn't really spoken of. One of the things, though, I also did, there was one time I was working on a business deal, and the business deal for me was about $500,000. And as I was in the process of closing the deal, God stops me, and he convicts me. He says, why are you begging for pennies and nickels when my glory is falling on the streets? And this was in Atlanta, and so he was convicting me to stop working towards this tremendous commission I was going to get on a business deal. And he says, I want you to go evangelize. I want you to go minister in the streets. And so he led us to a place in Atlanta that the male prostitutes were working a street over from us. And I put beans and weenies out as bait, It was cold in the wintertime, and we'd feed these guys, and I didn't know what to do. So we just had this belief that, God, if you could show us what the sin is that got them here, and we could minister to that sin, that you'll set them free and you'll restore them. And so they'd come up, we'd feed them, and we'd pray, God, keep the goats away and send the lambs. And goats were funny because it was like a mime coming up to you. It's like they came up against this wall and they couldn't get past this wall. And these guys would kill you for $10. Some of these people we ran into would kill you for $10. And so the ones that came through, and they didn't look like lambs, but when the ones that came through, I said, "What's your name and can I pray for you?" And these guys would get born again 50 times if there was 50 free meals. So they were used to evangelists. They were used to working a program to get something. I remember one of the fellows I prayed with, I said, "Can I just pray for you?" And he looked at me, "Sure, yeah, like, what's that going to do?" I said, "You were molested by your cousin when you were 5 years old, and because you were molested by your cousin, you turned your life over to homosexuality. Your life was destroyed, and you end up here on the streets selling your body just to get crack to get by every day. Is that correct?" And the guy just wide-eyed, "How did you know? Are you guys psychic?" We hear that all the time. As the Lord would show us something that was actually happening, and we actually gained a reputation. We'd minister to the sin. They would experience the deliverance of the sin, but also salvation. And each one of these guys that went through this, as we followed up on them, they actually got off the streets and got jobs and got restored or whatever to family. One guy came up to us, and we kind of felt threatened. Our lives are threatened by this guy. But again, we kept praying, "God, send the lambs and keep the goats, guy." And this guy came up to me, and I say the same thing. "What's your name?" Because I didn't know what to say. And "Can I pray for you?" He said, "Yeah, go ahead, pray for me. I don't care." And I looked at him. I said, "Did somebody just die in your arms?" He looked at me, and he shook his head. He says, "Everyone in the streets said, you guys are the real thing." He said, "Yeah, I just had a friend of mine die in my arms yesterday." And I looked at him, and I said, "And you heard God," and I said this, it just popped out of me. I said, "You heard God's voice, and you heard God's voice say to you, you didn't know where your friend just went, and you don't know where you're going to go when you die." And he's shocked. He's like, "That's exactly what I heard." I said, "Would you like to give your heart to Jesus right now?" And he prayed and received Christ right then. Now, we had ministered for weeks, and some of the people that we had ministered to in this particular location, one was a fallen pastor that had gotten hooked on drugs, and he actually showed me where he was living. It was in a cave, and as he walked into this cave, it wasn't really a cave, but it was just something that was like a cave underneath a parking lot. And as you walked in there, you saw this calf that's carved in the side of the wall, and he lived above this little cavern area where he'd watch people, cultists would come in and do their little seance or whatever it is that they're doing there. And that's how low he had become because of sin, and how low he had fallen because of drugs. And God let us minister to him, and in fact, he not only was freed from what got him there in the first place, but he was actually restored back to the church to which he had come from. But as we ministered for weeks, all of a sudden the Lord gives me a real clear, these are people, some of the people that had heard us week after week after week and hadn't done anything. So God gave me something specific. And what he gave me was a vision of a clay pot. So I went down to the streets, and I held a clay pot the way it normally is held, with it up. I said, "Guys," and we have probably 20 guys right there. I said, "Guys, what's this used for?" "Well, you put dirt in it, and you put a seed in it, and a plant grows." I said, "You're right." And I turned the pot upside down. "This is who you guys are. Many of you guys are just like this." And I took a crowbar, and I smashed it. And I said, "And this is what the Lord's going to do to 5 of you." At that moment was prophesying. I said, "One of you is going to die with a needle in your arm. One of you is going to die this way. This is going to happen to this person. This is going to happen. Things going to happen." And because you would not repent. And each of these 20 guys, when I smashed that clay pot and I said what was going to happen, you could see most of the people break down and cry and immediately wanted to know God. The 5 that I prophesied, I didn't say who they are. I knew who they were. I didn't say who they were. I just said what was going to happen to 5 individuals. Each individual that I had said something was going to happen actually came up to me and said, "I'm the guy who's going to die with a needle in my arm, right? Yes, I'm sorry. You need to repent. But you're the one." And that guy was dead a week later.
Wow.
And it happened. Each one of the things actually came to pass on those people that were there. And there was what I learned is the kindness of God, the mercy of God, is that he would lead us to a place to where they had given up all hope, that these guys would sell their body just to buy crack. They all were HIV. They were all basically a death sentence on them and had given up, and yet God was there even in their last hours, to bring them salvation, and some would still refuse that. One of the last ones we did in that time where he led us down there was down by the Atlanta Stadium. It was a cold night in December, freezing rain, and there was a place down by the stadium that was known as the Mad Housers. It was a little community of homeless people that made their homes out of boxes. And so we were down there, a friend of mine was with me, and I just felt compelled to go down there. And the church that I was going to at the time had heard what I was doing, and they gave me, and this is kind of important for the story, they gave me size 8C Reebok sneakers. And they said, and they're brand new in a box, they said, if you find someone down there that needs sneakers, would you give this to them? And so, okay, size 8's kind of small for a guy, but I'll take them down there. And so we're down there, and we ran into these two guys. They were by a 55-gallon drum that was on, had a fire in there, and they were just getting warm off of it. And so a friend of mine and I went up and talked to them. And we just started talking about God and about the sovereignty of God, that nothing happens without a reason. And all of a sudden, just like this little bell goes off inside me. And I said, do you guys need sneakers? And this one guy, Dave, he's 6'4". He says, yeah, I need sneakers. I'm thinking, 6'4". And I said, what size are your feet? He said, size 8C. No way. So I go back to my truck. I grab these brand new Reebok black size 8C sneakers. I said, here, this is for you. What he had on his feet were black size 8C Reebok sneakers.
Wow.
They were all torn up. This was a Cinderella story all of a sudden. And they couldn't deny that this wasn't something miraculous. It was sovereign. It was God intervening. It was a God thing. And both of them immediately were convicted, and they gave their hearts to the Lord. And then he said this. He said, we got one more sin we want to confess. I said, what's that? He said, we had planned to murder you because we were tired of sitting in the cold, and so when we saw you come up, we already planned to murder you and steal whatever you had just to get out of the cold for a night. And they said, you killed us first. And a couple nights after that, I was in a different location, and this homosexual was hitting on me, which I always thought was funny because I ain't that pretty. And so the first guy, Dave, he came running up to me, and he said, whatever this guy tells you to do, you do it. You do it. And he said, let me tell you what happened. These brothers prayed with us the other night. We got saved.
We'll be right back after this message. The Prophecy Club has 6 exciting speakers which made 11 awesome DVDs in October. Shane Warren spoke on The Storm, Judgment, and Revival. Bill Federer did 4. Change to Chains, Islamic Conquest, Past and Present, 32 Miracles in American History, and Origins of the Great Awakening. Bree Keaton did 2. Go Rescue the Pygmies and Translations to Heaven. Maurice Sklar spoke on Revelations for the Midnight Hour. Daniel Dave spoke on I Saw the Dollar Dead. Michael Boldea did 2, The Suffering or the Glory, and Dreams and Visions from God. That's 11 new DVDs, most 2 to 2.5 hours, valued at $330, all available for a gift of just $200. If you've already placed an order for one of the earlier gift offers, you may call in and add the extra gift and get your order upgraded to the full offer. That's 785-266-1112. You want to ask for the October gift offer, 11 DVDs, 2 to 2.5 hours each, valued at $330, available for a gift of just $200. Call 785-266-1112 or go to prophecyclub.com. God is speaking to Augusto Perez with angel visits audibly and has given him 44 dreams and visions showing some amazing things about the future of America and the world, available in book or DVD. Topics are the Great Shaking, the vision of 3 stars, the coming famine, the glory clouds, the double portion outpouring, the coming attack on the U.S., the great darkness, the super devaluation of the dollar, the appearance of a celestial body, and how God will protect his own. Book is Smile Jesus Loved You, gift of $20. DVD is End of Times, gift of $30. Get both book and DVD for a gift of $45 at prophecyclub.com or call 785-266-1112. That's 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. Augusto Perez, Smile Jesus Loves You, End of Times, both for a gift of $45. Prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112. Call or click now. And now, back to the program.
And he said, let me tell you what happened. These brothers prayed with us the other night. We got saved. The other guy, immediately, his family came down the next day, and he was immediately restored back to his family. He says, I got a job the next day being a welder. We were both unemployed, homeless, freezing, and immediately restored. So whatever he tells you, do what he tells you to do. And so we would see God's hand miraculously. And I say all that for this reason. The things that God, I have seen crime scenes, the most horrible things, that you can imagine. My wife was curious one time and wanted to come along in one of the films that I was doing. I said, honey, this is not for you. And she was curious, and she was sick for days. She said, I don't ever want to do that again. And I've seen the most horrible things, heard the most horrible things. And so when I felt God quicken to my heart this year about the horror of things to come, it was beyond the horror to which I've already witnessed.
It's really, really bad.
It was beyond what I have witnessed, and I've witnessed more things than most people could ever imagine. And for him to say it's going to be more horrifying than what I've already witnessed is beyond my imagination. And that's what I feel is unraveling this year. Starvation, horrors to which we cannot imagine, a collapse, I believe, in our economy.
Let me say that again. You're saying this is coming on America this year?
I believe many of these things are coming upon America this year. I believe that starvation is one of the things that's coming. I believe financial problems are coming. He's shown me things, and I'm cautious about giving dates. Safe to say, the year before, since I own a business or businesses, the year before he told me between January and March, it's going to be record months. And we had record months in business. And it dried out. We lost 66% of our business come April. It was record months and hit by exactly what he told me would happen. And he's done this to me year after year after year. This year, he quickened to my heart that the horrors that were happening this year were even beyond what I have experienced and witnessed in my life, beyond my ability to process. And it breaks my heart because of my desire to save as many as possible and to spare as many as possible. And that's where my intercession is. But I'm cautious on dates. I believe what I felt like he's quickened in my heart, it's going to be quicker than it is going to be later. It's going to be quicker in this year than it's going to be later in this year.
Basically, you're saying the great trouble is coming to America real soon, to put it generally, right?
Real quick.
Real quick. Say on. Tell us more. We want to know. This is a group of people that wants to know what's coming. We want to know what God is saying.
I believe one of the things he had shown me is how the dollar was going to be devalued more than 10 times. That I believe we're going to see a new currency. And that was a vision. And so I preface what I'm going to say between visions or things I saw, I believe he quickened to my heart. And a sense is something that it might be subjective. I believe it's God. It might be subjective, but for the listener, it needs to be tested.
What you just said has already been tested because we've already had the likes of Shane Warren, Lindsey Williams, Daniel Davis. Many speakers have come in and said the dollar is going to die. It's going to, one said, lose an additional 30 or 40% of its value. We just had Augusto Perez said that there's going to be a super devaluation of the dollar. So that is, I would say right now, the primary thing that the watchmen are hearing in the spirit right now is the super devaluation of the dollar. One saw it blowing in the streets like just worthless paper.
Right. And I think it's going to happen overnight, over a weekend. It's going to be sudden. It's not going to be a gradual. It's going to be a sudden thing. And I was, years ago, and we're making the same mistake as this particular country, but I was in Bolivia, South America. And I had a friend there that he had this big pack of bills, Bolivianos, paper bills. And it was huge. it would fill a big garbage bag. I said, what do you have these for? And he had them all neatly packed in a package and shrink wrapped. And I said, what do you use these for? He said, that's toilet paper in the jungle. What? You're Bolivianos? It's toilet paper? He said, yeah. And he handed me the biggest note that they had. It had stamped on it 20B. And 20B was 20 billion Bolivianos. Their money was so devalued that 20B was equal to $10. 20 billion Bolivianos was equal to $10. And that their inflation rate was over 2,300%. And you'd see money changers in every street that would hold greenbacks up in one hand and Bolivianos in the other. And these guys were necessary. The people would cash their check, or they would immediately exchange Bolivianos into greenback. Greenback being that was what their economy was surviving on, was the U.S. dollar. They made the same mistake. They kept printing and printing and printing Bolivianos to pay their debt, finally until the point that it was worthless and it was no good except for just toilet paper.
What else is coming?
Well, in light of the dollar devaluing, people have no paradigm of existence except for what is normality, what they consider normality. Normality might be, I need gas in the car, I just go use my card and put gas in, and I can go to the grocery store at any time. Well, in the collapse of currency, we'll quickly see food shortages, riots, unbelievable amount of evil, neighbor against neighbor. And we're in a place in our history to where, I listen to both sides, of the political spectrum, and frankly, there's craziness on both sides, but they don't realize that they're heading to a disaster, and the disaster being neighbor against neighbor. The house divided is going to fall. And that people, the worst temptation, I think, in the last days, but the worst temptation of our country, is that skin for skin, man will do anything to save their own life. What somebody could rationalize and justify doing in the absence of money, and the absence of being able to feed themselves or to take care of the family. What people, and it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, is that they'll go to their basest nature, and the things that can be conceived and imagined and acted upon are unbelievably horrifying. And I think that that's where we're heading as a country. One of the fears I've had, and I felt God had quickened to me all last year before the election, was that the path that we're heading on is civil war, is one.
Right.
But another would be is absolute anarchy. And I think I shared with you in the last show that there's 6 stages of a society before its collapse, and I said we're already in the 6th stage. And I actually saw this when working in law enforcement, that we were well into several of the stages of a civilization's collapse. The last stage is anarchy, and we are just
days
away from anarchy.
Yeah. Do you have time to share with us the one vision about the tree falling?
Yes. Well, several years ago, understand, when I had the vision, I'm not believing what's behind the vision as far as what he's trying to show me. In other words, I have a vision of this great redwood, and it had fallen. It was the tallest tree out there. It had fallen across the path. And written on the side of it said, America Fallen. And that's what I struggled with, because at the time it's like, I could never believe, I couldn't conceive America would ever fall. So this must be a mushroom on the pizza again. I mean, and now I realize my vision, the vision I had years ago, is actually coming to pass. On the side of the tree, it said America was fallen. And when people came up to the tree, they were on a path. They realized they couldn't go to the left, to the right. They couldn't go over it. They couldn't go under it. And most people stopped because they couldn't get past the fact that America had fallen. Now, in the middle of the tree, all of a sudden I saw this translucent door. I saw a door in the shape of the cross. And people who realize how to walk through the cross, by the cross, where I can cast my cares onto Him, that God can do the work of transformation. No longer do I live, but Christ lives in me, that there's this going from glory to glory, that God could recreate within me a person that can live in the days of a new reality that's coming. And I saw those people as they went through the midst of that tree, when they came on the other side, that they were giants with crowns. In other words, they had found Christ in the midst of the reality that America had fallen. But because they had found Christ, and walked through the midst of it, they literally became giants spiritually with crowns. And so I think that that's the challenge that many of us, all of us, are going to be faced with.
Amen. All right, folks, once again, you've been listening to Doug Metzger. He's going to be speaking at the Prophecy Club. Strongly recommend you come. Also get his DVD. He's going to be speaking Saturday, February 9th, 2540 K Avenue in Plano. It's corner of Park and K, right behind the Whataburger. And then the next morning, Sunday morning, at the Spirit of Prophecy Church, same location. And he's going to be speaking there from 10:30 until noon. So once again, that's Saturday, February 9th, from 7 to 10:30 in the evening. And then the next morning, Spirit of Prophecy Church, 2540 K Avenue, both at the same location, from 10:30 to noon. And when you come to the Prophecy Club, we ask for a gift of $10 at the door. Sunday morning, there's obviously no charge at the door. I encourage you to come and hear him. Also, his DVD is going to be available. You can place your early order. It's called Will You Survive America's Fall at prophecyclub.com or by calling 785-266-1112. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers and your gifts of support. God bless.
Prayerfully consider joining the fight for souls by giving your financial support. We thank you and appreciate your faithfulness.
Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. I invite you to order my brand new DVD, Stargates, Wormholes, and the Bottomless Pit. Have 10,000 scientists from 100 countries recreated an Egyptian Stargate or wormhole? Was the idea for movies such as Contact, Hellboy, and Stargate SG-1 birthed from their plan to build a modern Stargate? Is their stated goal to recreate the Big Bang, the moment of creation, really a cover story for something more sinister? Will the 17-mile circular Large Hadron Collider, built 574 feet underneath Switzerland and France, open a door to another world? Some scientists fear it could easily open a wormhole or create a black hole and destroy this planet. Is it what fulfills the prophecy that the beast shall ascend out of the bottomless pit? Call 785-266-1112 and order Stargates, Wormholes, and the Bottomless Pit, or go to prophecyclub.com. The next speaker at the Prophecy Club is Prophet Leslie Johnson. She's the author of 5 books and 8 DVDs, given over 5,000 personal prophecies with pinpoint accuracy, such as Arafat would die in the hospital, Kathleen Sebelius would be elected governor of Kansas, a flood would hit El Paso, Texas, all perfectly fulfilled. She'll be speaking on how to spot true or false prophecies. Topics will be, obviously, how to spot a true or false prophecy or prophet, recognize the anointing for the spirit of prophecy, be found guiltless, receive a double blessing, DVD gift of $30. She'll be speaking Saturday, February the 9th at the Prophecy Club, 2540 Avenue K in Plano, on the corner of Park and K, behind the Whataburger. Doors open at 1, speaking from 2 to 5 p.m. Suggested gift at the door, $10. That's how to spot true or false prophecies. Saturday, February 9th, Prophecy Club, 2540 Avenue K in Plano. Doors at 1, speaking from 2 to 5. See you there. The next speaker at the Prophecy Club is Doug Metzger, speaking on Will You Survive America's Fall? At the age of 19, Doug had a very radical salvation, and immediately God began to show him visions. He'll speak on visions of coming events and America's demise. Doug was shown unspeakable torment is coming to turn America back to God. Topics will be America the Fallen Tree, 10-to-1 inflation dollar became worthless, vision of how the church was formed in America, visions of the end of America, vision of a nuclear missile, 12 cities destroyed, 1 million voices screaming at once, vision of the begging woman, the great betrayal, they ran to Jesus, prayer is protection, the greatest horror and revival, DVD gift of $30. Doug will be speaking Saturday, February 9th at the Prophecy Club, 2540 Avenue K in Plano, corner of Park and K behind the Whataburger, doors at 6, speaking from 7 to 10:30, gift of $10 at the door. See you there!